Hi guys, welcome to the Happy Belly interview series. I'm Nadya Andreeva. This is a series of interviews that I'm doing to celebrate the launch of my book, Happy Belly, Women's Guide to Feeling Vibrant, Light, and Balanced. And today we have one of my amazing friends, Carolyn Zwick, as our guest. Carolyn and I have been friends for a couple of years now, and she has a MA in counseling psychology and graduated as a published author in a thesis that talks about experiencing emotions thematically. And that's one of the things that was so fascinating about Caroline's work for me. And we'll definitely talk about it during the interview. Caroline is on a mission to set women free to be who they are and do what they love, independently of external expectations, societal norms, because she believes that when women wake up to their own desires and their intrinsic power, they realize their dreams and callings, and they will spread the kind of happiness that will be carried through the generations to come. So that's a beautiful message.
Thank you. Such a great introduction.
Yeah, and tell us a little bit about what does a happy belly mean for you
Sure.
personally?
I think that, that's such a great question. And I love that that's, like what you focus on and what your book is all about. A happy belly for me really means, a number of different things. I think number one, like what comes to my mind first, like happy belly is like when I think of my stomach and how it kind of like feels and how it looks and like all that stuff. And then number two is definitely functionality, because I think the functionality piece really like impacts like our whole entire well-being. And it's interesting because the second piece of like functionality and like really valuing like whether or not like I'm actually digesting the food and the energy that I'm putting into myself properly, is something that I like never thought about until a couple of years. And it's a funny story how I got tuned into this part of
Yeah, tell us.
my happy belly. I used to get pretty bad headaches, and I I always like thought, oh, it's my shoulders because I'm sitting there typing all day. And so I went to get one of those, like those chair massages where you lean forward and they like rub your shoulders and it feels amazing. And back then I was living in California, and at the Whole Foods there was this woman from, I think I heard someone over talking to her, and she was from Brazil, I think from from the Amazon region there, and she was offering these massages, and I'm like, I'm gonna go and get rid of this headache. And I show up and I like tell her I would like a massage, and she asks me why, and I say, like I have this headache and it's here and there and like like all this stuff. And instead of leaning forward and like massaging my neck, she like takes me by the shoulders and like whips me back, and I land with my head in her breasts, and I'm lying there, and she starts rubbing my stomach. And mind you, this is in the middle of Whole Foods. So, and she tells me to like say the same thing with her, and like go, the same thing as in round and round, down, down. And so she's rubbing my stomach, and I'm like lying in her chest. And we do this for 10 minutes, and my headache is gone. And I had just never experienced anything like it. And that was really the first time that I understood that our digestive system or our belly is connected to so many more parts of our whole body and of our well-being than just, the way it looks and whether or not we're like bloated or constipated or whatever. So that's really what a happy belly means to me. It's just a happy person.
Yeah, that's really cool. Why do you think it is important to have a happy belly? Like, if you feel that your belly is not that happy, what do you feel like it's connected to?
I think if my belly isn't happy, it's basically meaning that there is like the energy flow of my whole being doesn't work. Like it's basic, like I kind of picture it like a big rock in the middle of the road, and you can't, keep going or keep driving in a smooth way. If you think about it, like everything that, like you eat, and that like your body is basically, your belly is basically this like complex, like machinery that's like able to turn an apple into energy, right? And I think that's like pretty amazing. So yeah, I think I think that's
That,
the most important
yeah,
piece.
yeah, that's really cool. And I think it is pretty incredible that without us planning and um, doing a thinking about it, our body can turn whatever you eat, because people in different countries eat different foods,
Yeah.
whether it's somebody eats rice, somebody eats apple, somebody eats meat, and it basically still turns into new cells and energy. So it is a pretty amazing process.
Yeah, I think so.
On a day-to-day basis, what do you do to keep your belly happy?
So that's an interesting one because I definitely used to have, and that was like a really long journey for me to really figure out, what do I need to do in order to make my belly happy. And I've tried tons and tons of things. Like I think I started off more with kind of like more invasive Western medical, tools and things and that kind of thing. And now what I really do is every morning, like I know in the morning, I just need to take my time. I'm not the kind of person who can jump out of bed and like be out the door in 5 minutes. Like that, like doesn't allow my system and like my digestive system specifically to function right throughout the whole day. So for me, it's really important that in the morning that I have time for breakfast and just to like sit for a little while and like enjoy the morning
Like hang out.
and hang out. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And like take my time with my fiance to like exchange a couple of things, like laugh a little bit, and like really start my way off in this like grounded foundation.
Yeah, so you're starting it without rushing, with ease. And I think that's one thing that people forget, that the first thing they wake up, they're on their phone, and then it goes like this through the whole morning, and there's really no time to kind of check in what's happening with my stomach right now, or even time to go to the bathroom, because it's like sitting on the bathroom playing on the phone.
Yeah, exactly. And like I think another thing, like when we're in like go mode and like doing mode throughout the day, like I notice that I'm kind of like holding my stomach in and like like I don't really breathe all the way down because you're like holding up your posture and you're like on a
Yeah.
mission and like da, 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 da. So I think having a little bit of time in the morning to just like for lack of a better term, like just let it hang out.
Yeah, yeah.
I think is really important and like allowing your body to take on its like natural, like most comfortable shape without being concerned about what it looks like.
Yeah, so
Um,
you're letting it be free. I think it's such an
yeah.
amazing point for to remind women about it.
Mhm.
Do you have any particular foods that keep your belly happy, or teas?
So something that actually you really got me into is ginger tea that I now sip like throughout the day. And I think just having warm things instead of cold things actually makes a really, really big difference for me. I'm typically more on the cold side anyway in terms of like body temperature. And so for me, it's been like really helpful to like drink more warm fluids and warming foods too. I think I used to have these like secret rules for myself of like, I have to have salad for lunch, like that kind of thing. But when it's cold, like today, um, I just don't think that that's what my body really needs and how it is nourished in the best way. So, really like listening to what my body needs on a daily basis and like playing with temperatures, playing with textures and like it's fun once you let yourself really dive into like the variety of foods and the variety that they can be prepared in. I think has been like at first it was an intimidating topic but it's really been a really pleasurable experience for me to like play with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that you mentioned that it was a secret rule. I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of us have rules
Mm-hmm.
that we got from either reading a magazine or from talking to somebody. And it's really hard not to attach themselves to those rules, or not to feel bad about yourself when you can't live along with
Yeah.
that rule, even if it doesn't feel you make you feel
Mm-hmm.
good. So it's a really important point
Mm-hmm.
about being
Yeah.
aware, like who told you, like our human body is so adaptable. You can live without a salad for a day,
Yeah,
or you can have some
exactly.
sautéed greens.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is such a good point to keep in mind.
Yeah, I think we sometimes tend to like build up these sort of like rigid rules for ourselves in order to feel more structured or feel more in control. And letting go of those rules is scary because we have these, like, we build these illusions for ourselves of like, oh, like if I don't do this, like I'm going to gain weight or break out or da 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 da, and like these stories just keep going on in our heads, you know. And like, but I think once you start to allow yourself to step outside of those strict boundaries, it feels so liberating, you know. So
yeah, and your body, it feels good in your body when you can trust it.
for sure.
Has your belly always been happy?
No, definitely not. Like for the most part of my younger years, I don't really remember thinking about it too much. So I'm just assuming it wasn't an issue because it never like
Paid
really
attention.
occurred to me, you know, or like that it never was a problem. So it never like really occurred to me. And then in my mid-20s, and about 5 or 6 years ago, I started to experience a lot of constipation and not being able to go to the bathroom. And that was also during a time when I was really stressed out in my life, you know. I had extremely high expectations for myself. I was following a path that like just wasn't making me happy, but I thought I had to do it in order to, you know, make other people proud of me, in order to not embarrass myself. Like I was pursuing medical school, and for me, like that was really like keeping up the legacy of my family, because my parents are doctors, my grandparents are doctors, so there was all of this kind of like internal expectations that I had built up for myself, really, that I was like trying to fit in, and I was like basically trying to fit into this like sort of perfect mold, and was really neglecting who I really was. So coincidentally, at the same time, I also had digestive issues because I literally was constipated in my life, you know, like I literally wasn't digesting my real feelings and emotions. I remember going on vacation with my family, and I couldn't go to the bathroom for 10 days, and it was just miserable and horrible. And in retrospect, I can kind of like, you know, laugh about it because those times are thankfully over, but it was miserable for me to be on a beautiful island where all I wanted to do was be in a bathing suit and go to the beach, and literally hiding out in the room just because I like felt so puffy and gross, you know?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people forget the huge connection between the emotional and the physical side. So when you're
Huge.
holding on to things, or when you're scared, or when you're fearful, it's going to make things very contracted. And when things are contracted, they don't move.
Yeah,
So it's
exactly.
one of the things to analyze if the food is not making such a difference, or if your habits in terms of bowel movements are very different on vacation versus during the work week. Well, maybe it's not the food, maybe it's the work. So
Yeah,
it's definitely something to keep in mind and explore.
I think so. Yeah.
So besides stress, what makes your belly unhappy right now?
Too much acid
Okay.
is definitely something that I have to watch out for. In terms, like, so for example, Christmas, yeah, right? Like, I'm from Germany. We love meat. We love sauces. We love sweets. We love cheese. All of those things. And if that gets too much, especially if since my daily life is pretty like healthy and like in tune with my body, over these like kind of like Christmas times, sometimes my body can get completely out of whack with like drinking wine and like all of those like, you know, pleasures in life that are so seductive. You can easily fall into that trap. And when that gets too much, I definitely feel my stomach and my just like, you know, literally like even like my esophagus like burning and like all this stuff. So being in tune with my body in that regard and not overdoing it, right? Like not like being preventative instead of patching up the wounds afterwards is
But
definitely
at the
something
same
I'm
time, what
learning.
I'm hearing you say is that you learn those foods are not ideal for your body. But it's not like you put them on a not to touch shelf. You can
No.
still enjoy them, but
Yeah.
just be mindful of when to stop, how much to have, and then what to do to help your body restore after.
Absolutely, 100%. I don't think that, like, for me, restriction doesn't work. When I tell myself not to have something, then I really want it.
Yeah.
So I think just having a loving relationship with foods and looking into, of course, like what makes you feel good, but also allowing yourself to splurge and having something that just tastes really good and like reminds you of your childhood and that kind of stuff, I think is important too. The one thing I will say that's an absolute no-go for me is fake sugars.
Mm-hmm.
That to me, like that just whacks my whole system like into a downward spiral. But then again, like fake sugars aren't actually the thing that tastes good. Then it's actually like real sugar that I want. So now I I gave myself permission a couple of years ago to just go for the real stuff. And I didn't gain weight from that, because once you allow yourself to splurge and have like those like luxury experiences and pleasurable experiences, it's not like you actually want like.
Yeah, I think it's something that happens to a lot of people, that once you know that everything is allowed and you can have it at any time, any day, like you give yourself that mental permission. If I want ice cream in the middle of the day, I'll go have ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're like, well, I don't really want ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a matter of that internal freedom, where knowing that you can have it at any time allows you to actually make a choice based on what you want at the current moment.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that's a much more friendly way of dealing with yourself
Especially
and your
for
body.
women.
Yeah.
Because I think men sometimes can be very good at following rules that they put for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So for somebody who is just starting their journey, so maybe they feel bloated or they feel constipated or there's acid reflux, what would be your advice? And since we were talking about mostly emotional stuff, from the emotional point of view.
Mm-hmm. Allowing yourself time. And like I think that's the number one piece that I really had to learn from an emotional perspective too, because I think giving yourself time is not just carving out 30 minutes, but also giving yourself the mental time and space to be with yourself instead of having your mind race at 100 miles an hour. That to me has really been like a healing thing in so many ways, in my digestive system, but also in my relationship with myself, which we just talked about is so related to your digestive system anyway. But really allowing yourself time and patience. And I know for so many of us, like slowing down is the scariest thing, but really like making a point to carve out unplanned time for yourself. And unplanned meaning, no errands. Like that time can't be used to like check email and like catch up on stuff, but just like maybe 30 minutes and like start with those 30 minutes and ask yourself, what do I feel like doing right now? And like then go do that. Or like do nothing if you want to do nothing.
Yeah.
And like not feeling guilty. I think that's a big piece too.
That's a huge piece. Because I think so many of us feel like it's mandatory to be productive.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that's an amazing advice. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's still a journey for me too.
Yeah.
So it's not like you arrive at this place and all of a sudden it's easy and like no problem. But I think it's a continual work in progress. So don't give up.
Yeah, definitely. So if people want to find out more about your coaching and your work and your articles, where can they find you?
They can go to my website, which is www.carolineswick.com, and Zwick is Z as in zebra, W-I-C-K. That's the best place to start. And if anybody wants to shoot me an email, my contact information is on there. I'm happy to hear from everyone.
Okay. Thank you, Caroline, for being with us. And guys, make sure to download the free chapter from the Happy Belly Guide. The link is right below the video, and to watch all other amazing Happy Belly interviews. Thank you.
Thank you.